Welcome to the JAMODI Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders, so let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.
Welcome to the Ballology app Ultimate Demo. Trusted by leaders in the game. Ballology is a player development platform built for coaches and players alike. You can expect live shot tracking, workout libraries, and AI insights. You can easily chart team shooting drills in practice or in training sessions. Track all of those shots using an iPhone or an Android device in real time. You can view your team's performance through a video archive or by using our shot charts. After every shooting workout, take a look at your breakdown by viewing your percentages and your shot locations. Let's take a deeper look to learn how to make the most out of the Ballology app. Let's see how you measure up in the Ballology Skills Assessment, where you can test your shooting skills versus other shooters worldwide. Navigate to Ballology AI, where you can ask any question to get answers in real time for smarter training.
Make that footwork a little more sharp.
Coaches or players can create custom workouts in just minutes. Hit your on-court skills or basketball IQ or even strength and conditioning. It can be done on the Ballology app. Compete with everything you do on the Ballology app through our workout leaderboards. Elevate your game with the Ballology app. Download it for free today.
Well, that says a lot about the relationship that you guys had, that over the years, you continue to talk, stayed in part of his life for some of those big moments. He made a comment about the jump that he made from even his freshman to sophomore to junior year. Coach, what were some of those things that he did that allowed him to have those big?
Well, I think the biggest thing was first his he lost weight. That was, and
Yeah.
I kind of teased him. He's teased me. I called him Pillsbury Doughboy when I got there. And I, try to put, how they do the finger in the belly and, the Doughboy. And finally, and I don't know if you ever heard, he broke his jaw and he couldn't eat and he lost 20 pounds. And I think that he realized that, he was, that really helped him. And then, we ran sets and stuff, don't get me wrong, but we also ran motion. And my whole thing was teaching him how to play. And he always, one thing he didn't like, that the previous coach said they didn't run much ball screen. And we ran ball screen, but we also ran motion. And I think I helped him learn the game as far as playing without the basketball, and so and even with the Jazz, a lot of it was ball screen stuff, but they, sometimes they needed buckets. They ran them off screens on the baseline and he was so good at that. And then he would get, whether he scored off the, a jump shot or tight curl and drop offs, which to me is the same as a ball screen anyway, but, people don't see that. So,
Yeah.
I think that was the key. And then Dee Brown always said, you made me a basketball junkie, coach. And, and those guys, they partied, they had fun, but we'd win a game. They'd go back and watch the film, probably drink beer while they're watching it. They would kind of text me or something, and then they'd go out and party because I knew they were out. And then about 2 a.m., they'd go in the gym and shoot. It was just, a crazy group. So I think he just continued to learn his weight, his just understanding, and he just kept making strides. They pushed each other. Those three, Luther, Dee, and Deron, really pushed each other.
And, I've told this story before. I was always blown away by how competitive he was. And the example I give is, we would play pickup after school at open gym. And a lot of people remember the name Bracy Wright too.
Oh, yeah.
And Bracy was he was more highly recruited.
Yeah.
And supposed to have a higher ceiling, higher in rankings, all this stuff. But if I had my choice between the two, I would pick Deron to be on my team because I knew we weren't going to lose a game and we were going to be playing the whole day because that dude was just so stinking competitive.
We joked about, my wife and I, that like they'd come over and, we always had them at the house and the team, and we had a big basement, ping pong table, pool table, the pool, Connect Four, all the games. And it didn't matter what we were playing. He was going to win. He put a hole in our wall in our basement playing ping pong. He was so competitive. So, he'd be sweating. We'd have recruits. um, we had a recruit on campus, and I kept telling him, this kid loves you. He wants to be like you, wears your number. And Deron, like, I'm going to kick his butt. And he did. And like, we don't get the recruit.
You're kind of hurting us a little bit right now. Oh, man. One thing you said too, and I think this is a great goal for all of us as coaches, is to help our players learn to love the game even more, become students of the game, want to be in the gym, because most of especially in high school, most of the guys won't play in college and they won't.
Yes.
Their careers will end. But man, you can play this game. Even up until probably a year or two ago, I was still trying to play some 3-on-3 when I could, until I just realized, man, my body feels way better when I don't play. But you can love the game and keep playing it for a long time. I think that's a good goal for all of us.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's parts of the player, obviously the physical, and that's your God gifts. And, guys say, can I play in the NBA? Well, do you have God's gifts? For the most part,
Yeah.
there's the rare percentage that overachieves, but, Darren's body, his physicality, all that, and Glenn Robinson, guys that I've coached through the years, they were given those physical. Then there's the heart and the competitiveness. And that's what takes the guys from a whole nother level. And, you hear this, you watch the stuff on Michael Jordan. I coached Deron,
Yeah.
that you talked about the competitiveness and all that. It's just kind of amazing. But then there's the mental part. And that's when when you get older, understanding the game and knowing angles and how to play. And, and that's, I think in Europe, when I've done clinics over there and coach USA basketball and different things, that those guys, they always say, oh, they have old man game. Well, yeah, they're smart. They learned how to play. People have taught them how to play. And I think so. You have all those things. And when you get older, you still got the brains. You might not have the jump or the quickness or whatever. And then you still have if you love to play, you're competing, but you got to compete with your brain and be smart about it. Oh, I can't go in and dunk anymore, but I sure can make a layup, or I can dish it off or whatever. So I think that's with all the guys.
You mentioned the European players and how they know how to play. So they act as if they're older. They know they have a higher IQ or a high IQ, and they know angles. Coach, what are they doing over there to make that happen in these younger players?
I think the biggest thing is they play games. Obviously, they have international competition. They also play with older guys. And I think that's so important. I just know from my own family, we got 3 boys. I learned from my brother. I'm 8th, 9th grade. I'm playing with high school kids. My younger brother then joins us later on. My brother's in college. I'm in high school. He's in 7th, 8th grade. He's playing with us, and you start to learn how to play. So playing with older guys, but I did a clinic at the European Championships in Istanbul, and I was a Turkish coach who was an assistant on the national team. He was our host, and I would go do the clinic, and then guys would start coming into the gym like 11 a.m. And I was like, these are high school kids. Don't they go to school? And they already got their stuff done. And he said, now they work on their skills. And what are we doing? And I've said this for years. We're going to play AAU. We're going to play games. You need games. Don't get me wrong. But that skill development, that the dedication to learning the game, all those things, I think that's the difference maker with the international players. And they don't totally rely on their physical gifts. They rely on their skill, and they develop their skill, and then also.
Now, that's a great nugget. Stan Leach is a well-known coach in the Texas high school world. Did it for 40 plus years. And one thing he talked about was skill work. For a coach, he said, if you're investing in your future, of your program and players, you're going to do skill work. If you're just trying to win right now, you're going to work on plays and sets and all of those things that may help you in the moment. I think that's a stretch, or maybe a goal for all of us, is to be investing in the future of our players by making sure we set aside time for skill work.
There's no doubt. And you can ask, we've talked about your former teammate, Deron Williams, that, you would ask, if you ask him from the first day of practice, we were doing skill work to start out practice, and going into the Final Four, we were still doing skill work at the end of the year. Every day we did it. Obviously, at the beginning of the year, you have 30 minutes and you're doing a skill work and concept work at the same time. Or you get later in the season, you're going to cut back your practice time so you don't have as much, but you're still doing skill work. And then the best part, you asked earlier when we were just kind of chatting about why did Deron make such a step? Well, when we cut back practice, he would stay with Dee Brown and Luther Head, and then other guys with Roger Powell started joining, and they just played one-on-one. And there's no better thing to play than one-on-one. I always, when I speak at camps, and I did a couple weeks ago with younger kids, I said, you all want to play 5-on-5, but you can't get guys to play 5-on-5. Plus, think about it. I always say, who's a good math student? And, how many balls are there that you play at one? How many players? Well, if you play a game 5-on-5, you only have 10% of a chance. And then there's always better players. So your chance of getting the ball is probably 5%, maybe 3 sometimes. But if you play one-on-one, you got it half the time. And that's how you get better. You play 2-on-2, 3-on-3. To me, the best, I love 3-on-3. And we played 3-on-3 all the time to start practice. It was part of our skill development. The thing they hated the most, I played 3-on-3 without dribble. It's like giving them cancer that they couldn't dribble the basketball. But it taught them how to play, even at camps years ago. And I didn't do it later because then kids might not come back. But when we were at Purdue all my years there, we always played 3-on-3 and 4-on-4 without the dribble with the campers. Now we had them for a whole week and we had them overnight, and you had more time. But we were even trying to help those kids learn how to play without the basketball and develop those skills. But you have to. It's so important. When you talk about things you have to do on a daily basis to have a successful program, that is one of them. And there's no doubt about it, is skill development.
And Doug Novak said everything is skill development. I mean, all throughout your practice, even in those 3-on-3 games, when you take out the dribble, you're really going to see who has a high IQ and who doesn't, who can play off each other, who can read how they're being guarded, when to cut, and where those openings are, who has the ability to see something and do what they see. I see my teammates open and I can deliver that pass on time and on target. Coach, that's all skill work. And I think you're right on the money with doing some type of individual skill work leading into those 2-on-2 and 3-on-3 games. That's a great formula.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And that's how we started practice, every day. And I'd even trick them with defensive stuff. Part of our stretching, I told one of our strength coaches, we got to figure out how to do our defensive footwork as part of stretching. So he just kind of implemented that too. Your step slides, you're doing your warm-ups and different things like that. So sometimes you got to trick them. There's no doubt about them, and they don't even, we're working on defense, but they don't even really know it because you're working on the footwork and things like that. Because what do you know how kids are. As soon as they hear defense, they're shutting you down. So. Right. And that's part of skill work too, that you have to do that. And the more you can implement that, and, basketball's a game of habits and a game of repetition. And I did it for 45 years. I went to camps I still remember going to camp in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I remember Rick Majerus's talk on one-on-one. I was 10 years old at a Catholic grade school, and he was speaking, and I give almost a similar presentation now. So basketball, it's repetition. It hasn't changed. Learning footwork, learning angles, learning to get that first step by somebody, reading the defense of how they're set up, how their footwork is set up. So those are things that I still do. It's 50, 60 years later or whatever. So basketball, it's changed, but it hasn't.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.